So today, we're actually not going to be looking at an Optiplex. We're actually going to be looking at something totally different. So if anybody's been following the channel, typically I take Optiplexes or just older computers and we flip them, make a little profit off of them, or whatever we decide to do with them, maybe some modding. Well, with the current trend in the market, Optiplexes have gotten ridiculously expensive in my opinion. Before the current situation going on, you were able actually to find an Optiplex 3010, 3020 with the i5 3rd gen, and typically find these old office PCs and flip them for about, typically buy them for about $20 to $30, sometimes even $40, and then you were able to put a good video card, solid state, and all that stuff, and possibly flip them for $200, making probably a $100 profit. So they were doing really good, and it was so easy to get them because they were cheap. The market was good then. Now with everything going on, I guess people have caught on to the value of the Optiplexes, and typically while searching on eBay, they can be had for about $100, which then leaves the profit margin not too desirable if you're trying to flip them. Now, if you're trying to get an Optiplex for yourself, then hey, have at it, $100 for a complete computer, just slap a video card and a hard drive in there, good to go. So browsing the eBay, I came across this one. This is the HP Elitedesk. I forget the model number. Let me see if I can pull it up. The 705 G1 SFF, small form factor. This comes with the A6 Pro 7400B 3.5 gigahertz with 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM and typically a 500 gig hard drive. Now, the AMD A6 Pro CPU is a dual core CPU and it turbos up to 3.9 gigahertz. Has L2 cache, 1 megabyte, all that good stuff, yada yada. You can actually put up to 32 gigs of RAM of DDR3 in there, which DDR3 RAM is very, very cheap. Has Ethernet and all that jazz. It also has a Radeon video card. I forget which one it is. When we turn it on, I think it's an R5 or something like that. When we turn it on, we'll go over that and we'll take a look at it. So this I paid $40 for. So I was looking and these actually sell pretty cheap, these AMD AM4s. So I'm curious if this can make a decent gaming computer. Are we able to do anything with it? And yeah, is it really worth the $40 that you can get them for? Of course, this one didn't come with the hard drive, but it did come with 4 gigs of RAM, which that's okay. We could pop more RAM in later. What we plan to do with this one, we want to see if this one is actually, as is, a good $40 office computer, intro gaming computer. Can we do anything with it? I mean, who knows? Got to stay tuned to the video and we'll find out what we can do. My next video that I'm going to do, so stay tuned, subscribe, and hit the like button. We're actually going to upgrade this up, see if we can find a real good budget video card for it, and see if we can make it a decent, real good gaming computer for a low buck. So possibly a $80 Fortnite gaming computer. So if you're curious to see what we do to this to upgrade it and find a really good cheap video card, you got to stay tuned for that. So let's go ahead, let's open this up. As you can see, it's a little dirty. I'll give you a close up of the back I/O. As you can see, we got 4 USB, your mic and your speaker in, and this is the small form factor. So if you're going to upgrade this, you're going to have to use a low profile video card. So opening it up is very simple, nothing too fancy, and I've already started doing a little work on it. I haven't cleaned it out or anything just yet, but we'll get to that in a second. So this is our 4 gig of RAM stick over here. It has 2 PCI Express slots and our cooler right over here. So nothing too fancy. It does have a DVD writer in the front, which that little small slim one, and then it has a provision if you want to add those IO front SD readers, whatever you can, but that's fine. It does have 3 SATA ports right over here. If you can take a look, we have the 3 SATA ports, so you can run your DVD and you can also run your 2 hard drives. So typically in this setup, I would run a solid state hard drive, 120 gig, and then I have a 500 gig mechanical hard drive. Now, my advice for these small form factor computers, if you're going to buy these to flip them or whatever you want to do for your personal, use the 2.5 mechanical hard drives. They fit better. You could double-side tape them somewhere. So as you can see, I kind of have mine sloppy lying around. We are going to clean this up. We're going to make this look a little better and put them more secure. But it's a lot easier to do this. If you're dealing with a 3.5 one, you can use the hard drive Caddy. Unfortunately, I don't think this one came with it, or yeah, it didn't come with the proper screws or whatever for it. Either way, I actually like using the smaller ones for these small form factors because space is an issue. They are small. So that's what we're gonna do with it. So I'm gonna go ahead, maybe do a time lapse, I don't know. We're gonna open it up, take a look at it. We're gonna clean this up, switch to the camera, and we'll take a look at the CPU. All right, we got our camera switched up, so let's go ahead and take this heatsink off. Let's take a look at this AMD CPU. Now, I've talked about this before in a lot of my videos. If you're gonna get these old computers, one of the first things that you need to do is change the thermal paste. This computer has a couple of dust bunnies. It's not as bad as some of the ones I've had recently, especially that completely gross, disgusting one. So check out that video of a computer that was completely crusted and disgusting. Yeah, we were able to clean that up and flip it real good. So definitely check out that video. But this one is actually not as bad. So, and typically these offices ones are not. They're just covered in dust. And this one, actually the dust is pretty decent on it. So you got 4 flat head screwdrivers. So let's go ahead and pop this out. And let's see what this heat sink looks like. Well, yeah, that too. But let's see what the CPU looks like. Clean it off and give it a fresh thing of thermal paste. Like I've talked before, heat is the #1 enemy of these computers. A lot of times these older computers that come into the shop, they're always saying, oh, it's overheating, fresh thermal paste, clean up some of these little dust bunnies, and you have a good computer back in service. So, all right, let's pop off this 4-pin connector if it wants to come off. There we go. All right. And as you can see, the thermal paste is just, wow, this one's really dry. Yeah, it's really dry and crusty. So a little love with the thermal paste and we should be able to have her back and running. Now I've talked about this before and I'm not going to beat a dead horse with it, but a little isopropyl alcohol. I mean, you could buy some of the more, I guess, computer ones that are rated for this, but alcohol works the best. And I've always never had an issue with it. So yeah, this thermal paste is pretty much junk as it's coming off very dust and clunky. Thermal paste, you usually want it to be a little smooth, a little creamy sometimes, kind of like a little peanut butter, maybe a little light texture on it. That's my honest opinion. So we go ahead, we clean this up real quick. We do the same thing with our heat sink. Get this cleaned up and we should get her back going. All right, so the computer is done, and I gotta say I'm actually impressed with this little machine over here. So we did the Cinebench R20 test. We only got 180 points, but then again, this is only a 2-core CPU, so there's not really much you can expect out of that. So yeah, it came out real clean. All right, I know people are going to talk about the wire tie and everything, but you know what? It works. It's a solid state hard drive. It's not going nowhere, and I'm not going to invest $15 into a Caddy for a budget build when a single wire tie, which everybody has, will do the same thing. The mechanical hard drive, I just see a little double-sided tape over there, stuck right in. That ain't going to go nowhere. I've done that for years. Fresh thermal paste, as always, significantly lowered the temp. When I first did a stress test when I first got this computer, because I wanted to make sure it worked from shipping, temps were probably in the 60s, 65s, and now I got about a 10-degree difference from switching to thermal paste. So now we sit at 50, 55 under a stress load. So very happy with it. The computer runs very smooth, no issues, no lagging, no performance. I'm very happy with that, considering that it only has 2 cores, only has 4 gigs of RAM, single channel. So now, of course, you get this computer and it does come with a hard drive, but the mechanical hard drive is actually going to really slow it down and not give you a good experience with it. So a solid state is definitely the way to go. Anytime I recommend anytime you, I recommend it anytime you get these type of computers over here. So our solid state for the win, of course. So like I said, we did the Cinebench R20. The scores were pretty low, but what surprised me most was, and if you look in the V-roll that we just did of the gameplay, Fortnite played actually pretty decent. This has 4 gigs of RAM and 1 gig I dedicated to whatchamacallit, the video card or the onboard GPU, and it ran good. I mean, everything loaded up smooth. I mean, we were on the lowest settings at 1280 by 1024, low settings, only 1 gig of RAM, and I was actually steady at 30 frames per second. Occasionally I had a couple of dips to 25, 26, but it stayed 30 frames per second. Now, granted, the graphics wasn't the best looking. You didn't have the best details or texture, but just to get a good Fortnite gaming experience, that was actually impressive. Now, this GPU actually onboard is a HD 8470, and you can allocate it to 1 gig of RAM. You could lower it a little bit, but 1 gig is actually the sweet spot. Now, if I was using this as an office PC, I'd probably run it at 512 just so I could have more memory for the system. So yeah, very happy with it. So for $40, this thing actually fared up very admirable, and for another $20 we were able to get a solid state hard drive, which is a must. Yes, I could have used the mechanical, which sometimes they come with, and I have tons of them lying around, but you gotta have a solid state if you're gonna run it. So for $60, you actually have a great office computer for browsing, online learning, and if you get a little bored, you could do a little Fortnite on it for $60. You can't beat that price for it. So I'm very happy with it. So stay tuned. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go to phase 2 of this computer build. All right, phase 2, we're gonna upgrade the RAM. We're gonna upgrade the graphics cards, which it's hiding right over there. So if you wanna find out what graphics cards that's going in here, definitely got to stay tuned. Hit that like button and notification, and definitely subscribe so you can see what graphics cards we're going to go in here, because we want to keep this a good budget gaming computer where we don't want to break the bank, and we definitely want to keep it under $100. So you'd be surprised on what I got that's going to work pretty good. So you definitely don't want to miss it. So definitely subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell. And we're going to see what we can do with it. Now, ideally, this is actually computer's already sold for a client, and they're gonna be picking it up. I would have loved to definitely do some case modding on it, do spray paint, put a window, some lights, but maybe the next one we're gonna do. So you can let me know down below if we think we should get another one and really try to deck this thing out. So stay tuned. Let's see what phase 2 is. Let's see what performance we can get out of it, and find out what really good budget graphics cards we got to put in this one. So it might be what you think, it might not be what you think. I don't know. I guess you're gonna have to watch to figure it out. So comment down below, let me know your thoughts, what you think. Do you really think this is a great bang for the buck for $40? I mean, $60 into it, I was impressed. I did play some CSGO, but I lost the footage on that, and we were able to get 30 frames per second drops. Not as good as it could, and some of the more intense AAA titles just didn't really hold up as well, but I think we might be able to fix that. So thanks for watching, subscribe, and we'll see what we come up with next.